course, we are happy and honored as Bahrain Human Rights Society for this partnership with the Human Rights Watch, a reputable international organization defending human rights all over the world. Of course, in the last 10 years in Bahrain, this conference I will be in jail myself. I don't know what will happen to me, and many will be as well or this conference won't be allowed at all, that you can release a report like this from Bahrain. Thanks to the reform project of His Majesty the King of Bahrain, who has introduced the progress that has been changed on different ways of life. So I would also like to appreciate some of the progress which has been pleasure with the Minister of Interior as well, and we met the Minister a few days ago and assured us also that they are doing their best in order to improve the human rights situation practices in Bahrain. Today, I have on my right Mr. Joe Stork, the Deputy Director of Human Rights Watch Middle East and North Africa. Joe was in Bahrain for the first time in 1996, and you know what 1996 was. The uprising at that time, the troubles, and so on. So he came then later on, 2001, I think, and of course that different changes and has been here most of the time in the last few years. Of course, in 1996 he wrote a report about the situation, which titled "Routine Abuse, Routine Denial," and he can talk about this particular report and so on. The second, Joe will speak first for around 15 minutes about the report, or 10 or 15, what you already decide. Then on my left is Mr. Joshua Gulangelo, a senior lawyer at Dorsey and Whitney firm from New York. He also visited Bahrain, first visit in 2005. He volunteered to defend the Bahraini Guantanamo prisoners, started in 2004, and until the last Bahraini prisoner was released from Guantanamo in 2007. Mr. Joshua and Mr. Stork were here last June. Also, he visited Bahrain after that. Last June was based on the report that you have in your own, and both of them will talk about the report. It's my pleasure now to give the floor to Mr. Stork.
Thank you very much, Abdullah. Let me also say...
Can you switch on mic, please?
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you, Abdullah, and thanks to the Bahrain Human Rights Society for hosting us this morning. I think I share your view that certainly back in 1996 and for quite a few years afterwards, this kind of event would not have been possible. And I think that's certainly a positive sign. I also want to thank, in addition to the Society, I want to thank the Bahrain Center for Human Rights and the Bahrain Youth Human Rights Society, who were a tremendous help to us also in the course of conducting this research and producing this report. And finally, let me thank, before I get into the hard stuff, let me thank on behalf of Human Rights Watch, Sheikh Rashid, Sheikh Khalid from the Justice Ministry, the Attorney General, and the other high officials who took time out of their schedules to meet with us over the past week. We appreciate their concern with this issue, and we hope this concern will translate into some real progress on this particular question. We're speaking in English, obviously, and assuming that most of you won't have a problem with that, but if at any point you want something translated, please let us know. And when we do get to the question period, please feel free to ask your question in Arabic. and you know, we'll deal with that. As Abdullah mentioned, I was here first in 1996, and before I came, I had been following, before I joined Human Rights Watch, I had been the editor of a magazine called Middle East Report that covered events in Bahrain, among many other countries in the region. And Bahrain, I think it's fair to say, certainly for the quarter century between mid-1970s, with the suspension of the parliament and the various crackdowns on political dissent, from, say, 1975 to 1999, 2000, Bahrain had a reputation, unfortunately well-deserved, as a country where torture, among other abuses, was pretty routine, pretty systematic, and completely unpunished. I think it's notable that in the early years of this century, that is to say after 2000, 2001, after the initiation of the reforms, Bahrain actually showed the world and its own people that it was possible, with the political will to do so, it was possible to end torture. For those years, roughly between 2001 and 2006, while we certainly had, if you look at our website, you'll see that we had and we responded to various serious allegations of human rights problems. Torture was not one of them. We didn't receive complaints of torture. It was in 2005 when Bahrain finally delivered its official state report to the Committee Against Torture, that is the UN body of experts that hears the reports from the states that are members or that are states party to the Convention Against Torture. They could claim with credibility that torture has been eliminated. I think that's the case. So it's been all the more distressing to start getting these reports starting in mid to late 2007, especially allegations from detainees or via their lawyers or their families that they were being subjected to some pretty serious mistreatment in detention. In response to those allegations, again, you can find this on our website, but we did a couple of interventions, letters to the Interior Ministry requesting information, recommending investigations, and so forth. And it was really the sort of series of cases, which we'll talk about in more detail, the so-called Jidhas case from December 2007, the Karzakan case from sort of March, April 2008, and then finally the so-called Hujayra case that started in December 2008. We felt it was important to pursue this, and with the release of many of the detainees who had been arrested in connection with those incidents, their release in April 2009, when the King pardoned some 178 detainees, many of them, if not all of them, security suspects, that provided us with an opportunity, we thought, to actually have access to the detainees. That's because the methodology we follow relies very essentially on the testimony of victims and/or eyewitnesses to incidents or to abuses. It was at that point that Judge Colangelo introduced himself to me, someone who had been gotten some experience here in Bahrain as the lead lawyer on Bahraini Guantanamo detainees, and he expressed interest in working on this project, and indeed he took the lead in terms of the research aspect of this. In addition to the interviewing some of the people, some of the victims of these alleged abuses, we also talked with their lawyers. We met with Bahraini journalists who had been following the story